Howdy.
Howdy.
It's time to impeach Trump.
Get him out of there.
The libs were right.
The whole time.
You have Trump derangement syndrome.
No, Trump has Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah.
Wish he did.
This is crazy. This is craziness. But yeah, it's escalating. It's continuing. It's intensifying. Tehran today is an awful mess. Acid rain, black rain from the oil storage being hit yesterday. Suspicions as well that the US timed that the new rain was coming. Maybe it's just it looks bad.
We'll probably be likely to make it rain as well, or to facilitate rain. You know,
all the particulates in the air,
loading the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah. Oil is at what? It depends on the metric, but oil, it's past 90. Qatar's warning it could hit $150 in the next few weeks.
Yeah. That's not a... I mean, there's a ways to go before it actually goes past the COVID era one. COVID era price.
What did it peak at there?
120 or 130 or something like that.
Okay.
120, I think it was, 122, 125.
Right. Trump, when asked about it this week, told Reuters, I don't have any concern about it, the oil prices rising. They'll drop very rapidly when this is over. And if they rise, they rise. But this operation in Iran is far more important than having gasoline prices go up a little bit. So Trump's betting on this being, settled and settled before the midterms, obviously. Because that's why you would be concerned as an American, because it would be translating into higher gas prices, yada, 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 for the whichever election year it is. That's always the front and center in American politics. It's Professor Morandi, the Iranian professor in Iran, who's all over the news giving his take and commentary. He was speaking to Kiriakou last night, John Kiriakou, the one-time CIA whistleblower. Against sources, but he did say, I've spoken to someone of significant political position in Iran who told me that they want this to last until the midterms.
Until November. It's a bit of a big ask.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? A week ago it started. This will be over in a few days, then a few weeks, and then maybe a few months, and then as long as it takes. That do you think that is genuinely a change in as a result of developments? The Americans go, okay, this will take longer, or they're letting people down gently. When, they would have known this is going to take longer than days, right? At the outset.
Well, yeah, there were, there's reports originally that, this week, after the fact, reports came out that Trump had asked for a ceasefire, or an end, basically, kind of like a ceasefire, on day one, and then again a couple of days later or whatever, asked for a ceasefire on day one. Asked the Iranians for a ceasefire via the Italian basically the State Department asked the Italians to ask the Iranians for a ceasefire on day one. So Who knows? That seems to be legitimate.
Yeah.
I think the source for that was, I think there was a legitimate source for it, as legitimate as it gets these days, that Trump had actually asked. And then there was Israeli news released a report saying that insiders had told them that Bibi Netanyahu, or whatever, the Israeli government had got wind of that and had asked, brought it up with the Americans. Have you been talking to the Iranians behind our back?
Yeah,
that
that's the
thing.
Axios report. Put that up, Scotty. That's a tweet from Joe about this. Has both stories side by side. Yeah, I saw the Axios one. Maybe click on the two stories first. So the left one. That's the Axios one. So Monday would have been, to some after last weekend. Netanyahu called the White House and asked if such talks or exchanges with Iran had taken place. And the White House told Bibi that no.
We're not talking behind your back, they said.
Yeah.
Just read out what they said. Read out the actual report. The White House told Bibi that the Trump administration wasn't talking to the Iranians behind his back. And then the next picture. So this is the original one. Trump seeks swift end to Iran operation. On the eve of the strike in Iran, U.S. officials envisioned a 4 to 5 day operation that would return a weakened Tehran to the negotiating table. According to one source, American officials conveyed an even more immediate proposal through a mediator. Apparently, Italy suggested reaching a ceasefire agreement today or tomorrow. So that was on the 3rd. So that would have been the Monday again. So it was all around the time, within a couple of days, basically. They were thinking of, allegedly, or tried to broker a ceasefire, or at least reach out to the Iranians to see if there was a possibility of a ceasefire. And this was obviously after they'd killed Khamenei and stuff, so Trump figured, okay. So again, and this goes back to the suggestion I made a few weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever, right before this happened. It was a week before this happened. I think it was the week before this happened, because this happened on a Friday night, Saturday, so it was the previous shows, the previous Sunday show. When I suggested against the kind of counter, I suggested, well, I didn't say it was going to happen. I said that it was possible that it wasn't going to happen. That this build-up of the military and all that kind of stuff was designed. We were talking about basically about the vibes and all that kind of stuff, that Iran would collapse through the sheer vibes and the sheer aura of American military power, and and this was on the heels of weeks and weeks and weeks of everybody saying it's going to happen, it's going to be massive, it's going to blow up the whole world, it's going to destroy the Middle East, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be whatever. Everybody that anybody's listening to pretty much had all said that was going to happen. It was building it up, and I was just based on Trump's past history of kind of tackling and wanting to do limited strikes and then walk away. Mm-hmm. And then I think at that time we had already heard from Witkoff on his talking to the US media. He said that he was surprised that he said, I don't want to say capitulate, but I'm surprised that they haven't actually capitulated yet, given the force that we have built up around them. And that was pretty clear evidence that was part of the plan. So this isn't you can't engage in binary thinking about this in a certain sense. It's not either or, that kind of thing. It's you have let's build up our armada to the face, to right up, let's shirt front Iran with this massive armada and see what happens. Maybe they'll back down if maybe the vibes will get to them, and they'll back down when they see the threat that we're posing to them. If they don't, and this is all in the same breath, so it's not either or, right? It's we'll try that. That's an option. If they don't, then we go full bore, and then after a day or two, we see how they feel about us having killed Khamenei.
Yeah.
Then we'll ask them. If they still don't like that, then we go full bore, and we do another 2 weeks, and then we destroy this, that, and the other, and then we ask them again. If they don't do it, then blah blah blah. So there's 4 options all the way. You know what I mean? So when I was suggesting that there was one was a possible option that they would turn away. I just threw it out there as a possibility, given what Witkoff said, that. But that would have been dependent on the Iranians actually backing down. But it was obviously part of their plan, part of their multifaceted plan. If not A, then B. If not B, then C. If not C, then D. And it seems to be that it was probably quite likely that in their head, there was an option to not use the military. again, dependent on Iran actually capitulating, and at that point, that was like, when I said that, that was like a week or so before the actual bombing started. It was, it was an option. Didn't happen, but it was an option. So what was the question again? Oh yeah, so then basically this would kind of tie into that in a certain sense, where you have 2 days after the actual war starts, you have these reports that they actually asked for, or felt out the possibility of a ceasefire with Iran after 1 or 2 days. So that again argues for Trump being of the mind that this should, at least initially at the time leading up to this, in his mind, him and whoever else, their preference, I would say, you could probably say at this point that their preference was for, like, best case scenario is Iran caves under the awesome presence of our military force. We don't have to fire a shot. Next best case scenario is we kill Ayatollah, take out whoever of their leadership that we can, and then we see what they say. And ideally, A or B will work, because Trump doesn't want a quagmire. He's on record as having said, no more Middle Eastern wars, this isn't going to be a long war, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that they asked for some kind of parley, allegedly, on the second day, again suggests that...
The Americans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Again, it suggests that the Americans, in their mind, Americans were, they didn't want to even have this war in a certain sense. Best case scenario was no shot is fired. Iran does what we want, gives us what we want, and we don't have to fire any shots. But if we do have to fire shots, we'll take out their leadership, kill Khamenei, see what effect that has, then ask them, what about now? You want a ceasefire? Because we want one, obviously. And that shows a certain level of realism that everybody seems to be saying at this point that America doesn't have at all. There is no realistic analysis of this whole situation. There hasn't been, because look what's happening, but it shows that they at least, or initially didn't know that it's not an ideal situation for them to be bogged down in another quagmire in the Middle East. And they did obviously have an eye to that, or did have some awareness of that being potentially being the case. But then you can understand that with the Iranians going, basically just flipping the word and saying, take your ceasefire and show it up your arse, well then that would, whether or not it angers them. I mean, it seems to anger Pete Hegseth quite a lot, because he's a war bro and he likes wars, and he's basically, he's the news anchor version of Maverick, you know what I mean? He's like lock and load, USA, kick the tires and light the fires and all that stuff.
And kill the heifer.
And
turns out he's got that, quite a bent for that.
A bit of that as well, yeah. So, but you can see how when the Iranians would reject and just say no, that would kind of, piss America off, piss Trump off to some extent, but put them in a position where, okay, we have to carry on and we have to win. There's no half measures here in a certain sense. We have to go full bore, basically.
Plan C is where we're at now.
Plan C is, because we're still only a week in. So Plan C would be, hit their critical infrastructure, which they've done. Desalination plants have been, desalination complexes have been hit today, I think, just last night. And also the oil refineries last night in Tehran. Like you were saying, it's raining oil, effectively. There's a lot of, it's pretty dangerous. Like that stuff's pretty toxic, basically it's basically toxic smoke, right? It's the kind of stuff, what I mean? If there's an oil fire, if somebody burns a car tire, for example, you don't want to be standing over there snorting it, right? Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's a reason for that, because it's pretty toxic. So, and it's it's kind of less toxic, I suppose, in the sense that it's not airborne anymore, except in the sense that it's waterborne in the air. So it's falling on the ground. At least it's not necessarily being aerosolized in that sense from a fire, but it is obviously from a fire, but it's just worse, actually. So they've got both, basically. Yeah, they've got the toxic fumes, and toxic fumes obviously eventually dissipate, but but the rain can pollute reservoirs and water supplies and all that kind of stuff. On top of them blowing up the water treatment complexes. So this is basically this is shock and awe kind of thing.
Hit them till they tap out.
Yeah,
their biggest city. By estimates that I've seen, Tehran, roughly speaking, is the same in size, population density, and population as New York City. So you just imagine that there is a massive oil refinery in downtown New York, and it's just blowing, it's burning all of this crap, and all the smoke's going into the air and raining down on all of New York. And that's basically what the Americans just did.
War crime. Another one.
Yet another one.
The desalination plant is stupid doing that. My understanding is, of all the countries in the region, Iran is the least dependent on them. But they have fresh water. They have mountains. You can still see the snow on the mountains around Tehran. The GCC are like 100% or close to it dependent on desalination plants.
Yeah.
Iran knows if they were to hit those. And indeed, this morning, Bahrain reports material damage to one of its 2 plants. Bahrain's a tiny island, so so overnight, that's a response, presumably from Iran. But what strikes me about this happened in the last couple of days, that just before the US hit Iranian refineries and massive storage tanks, their president, Pezeshkian, who's still alive, put out a video that was intended as a message for GCC countries, offering an apology for targeting their countries, as well as the reason why they did, and that they seek to only hit American bases there, and basically giving them an ultimatum. If American strikes continue from your bases, we will, of course, reserve the right to continue to hit them in self-defense.
Trying to sow division between the US and Gulf allies.
And then, boom, the US hits, escalates, if you like, and hits critical infrastructure in Iran, including this desalination plant.
And there's a bit of overlap there, or there's, that attack on Iranian desalination plant or complex overlapped with the Iranian or the Israelis claiming from Israeli sources claiming that the UAE, a desalination plant in the UAE, had been attacked by Iran, and that the UAE was warning Iran that if it continues to do such things, it's going to that the UAE would get involved in the war, or would respond in some way, more directly or whatever. But then, I think it's actually on X, maybe one of the UAE foreign ministry or something basically came out and said, no, that didn't actually happen.
Right.
So it suggests, obviously there's a lot of propaganda, and there's not just the propaganda you find online, but the actual, subterfuge as part of the conflict coming from the governments of the warring parties, in this case, probably Israel, maybe with the American knowledge, but it sounds more like an Israeli kind of thing to do. Where they basically put out a statement in the speaking on behalf of the United Arab Emirates, claiming that Iran had attacked a UAE desalination plant, forcing. It's kind of a bit crass because it wasn't very well coordinated, or because when if I say like Adam stole my lunch money. I tell Neil Adam stole my lunch money, and I think I tell Neil that, and I think Neil's gonna, go, oh really? he's a real bastard for doing that, isn't it? And
I'll steal his back for you, Joe.
no, and I forget that you're sitting there, and
And I say,
and you can say, actually, I didn't, and you can point
No,
to
I
my
didn't.
you can point to my lunch money sitting on the table. It's okay, good effort by me, but not really well thought out. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So, because what other explanation is there? For Israeli sources to claim that Iran has hit UAE desalination plants, and then the UAE to go, no, that didn't happen.
But that information, in quotes, might be fed into Trump.
Trump,
In a convincing way that he makes a decision, presumably he gave the green light, that in response to Iran's overture to its neighbors, he's convinced that, no, they're being sneaky bastards. They actually hit one of their much more critical water supplies. And that's kind of, that greases the wheels of a decision to usurp Iran's diplomatic effort towards its neighbors, because that seems to be the struggle there. Iran would like to convince this past week, try to convince their neighbors that having bases there, this doesn't protect you anyway. The Americans have substantially fled, and it's also a hazard for you, because the attack on Iran's desalination plant, it was apparently launched from a HIMARS based on a base in Bahrain.
Yeah, exactly.
So underscoring Iran's point that, look, that's why we have to hit you.
Yeah, well, the actual truth behind this whole and the reason we're talking about desalination and stuff is because, particularly like you said, in the Middle East, in these Gulf countries, well, it would be seen as a war crime. It is a war crime, I suppose, to hit that kind of infrastructure in a country and to try and deny the population access to clean water. It's a modern version of a medieval siege in a sense. So it's not cool or whatever, but the actual and it has serious implications, for whoever is on the receiving end of it. But apparently what actually sparked this off in a certain sense was an Iranian drone causing accidental or collateral damage, partly not really significant, to a desalination plant in Bahrain. So the story about that's going around that a desalination plant in the UAE was hit by Iran is apparently completely false, and the UAE government actually came out and said that's not actually true. And we also haven't said that we're going to attack Iran as a response, because the original claim is false. So, but what is true, it seems, is that the US/Israel did actually attack a desalination plant in Iran. So you see how it works,
Yeah.
Accused. There's an actual
we'll do.
Yeah, there's an actual truth, and then there's a bunch of mud or shit thrown into the mix, or whatever, and to try and muddy the water, or oil thrown into the water,
to prevent the mixing. Trump's response to the journalist on Air Force One, when directly asked about hitting the desalination plant in Iran, and his response was saying, "Well, I mean, they chop the heads off babies and they cut women in half. So
we can have
is that why he said that then?
Yes.
In response to that. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said. That was the response.
That was the response.
What is it here? To play that.
Iran today accused the U.S. of hitting a desalination plant in Iran, and they said that might open the door to other strikes on infrastructure, non-military.
Allow us to also open the door to other strikes against them.
Can you respond to that allegation? Did the U.S. hit the desalination?
They are among the most evil people ever on earth. They cut babies' heads off. They chop women in half. What they did, take a look at October 7th. Take a look at what they've done over the last 47 years. So I know nothing about a desalination plant other than to say, if they're complaining about a desalination plant, we complain about the fact that they shouldn't be chopping babies' heads off, okay?
Thanks, baby.
You can't even get desalination. Desalinization, he says, it's desalination.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's the first time he's heard that word, though.
Desaltification, not desalt. What did he say? Desalinizification? No.
Desalinization.
Desalinizification. Anyway, but it was interesting what he said there. He doesn't look good. Like, he doesn't, that kind of response, if you just, apart from the obvious bullshit about they chop babies' heads off and cut women in half. Yeah. Isn't that what your Epstein friends do? Anyway, talking about, it's not even pot kettle black. It's like you said, just accusing others of what you're doing yourself. But what was interesting, apart from that ridiculous, because obviously he's referring to October 7th, and he claims that Iran is responsible for that. How was it? Were there any Iranian? I don't think anybody ever claimed there were actual Iranians involved in October 7th, regardless of what you think about October 7th. Like, we have our own opinion about October 7th, but if you take the official narrative that it was Hamas members, Hamas. I mean, to say that, that was Iranians, basically. Hamas is Iran, and these are Iranians, and they were instructed to do this, and Hamas would never have done this. Palestinians would never have done what they did on October 7th, even though I don't believe that's what they did. But assuming you go with the official narrative, the Palestinians would never have attacked Israel in whatever way on October 7th,
but for
except for Iran telling them to do it, because they were just peacefully living in their open air prison,
getting bombed,
didn't mind getting bombed and killed and
getting
murdered
starved,
and stuff. And then Iran came along and whispered in their ear, "Hey, don't you want to go and butcher some Israelis?" And they were like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Why didn't we think of that?" So clearly it's Iran's fault, and therefore you can actually, blame Iran for. You can actually go there and do what Trump did and say, Iran cut the heads off babies on October 7th. Iranian leaders. Who? The Ayatollah? I don't know. Commander of the IRGC? Maybe. Was he there? Don't know. No reports that he was there, that he was doing that. But it's as good as, because they sent them money and they supported them, and therefore they're the most evil people in the world. It's all. That's just bullshit desperation. Like, he's responding to that. Trump reads that accusation of attacking a desalination plant. And
says they're more evil than us, than what you're implying.
As something profoundly evil to do. It's a war crime. It's, he should be tried. He should be pulled up in front of the, if it even lasts very much longer. But the what do you call it, the International Criminal Court, and he should be
into the Hague. Yeah.
He should be tried for war crimes, for, because in the same way that he can blame Iran for what Hamas did. The International Criminal Court and world public opinion can blame him for what his pilots and Israeli pilots under his command did. So he's the one who's going to be pulled up in front of the court. That's his justice. That's how his justice works, right? It's the buck stops with him. As far as he's concerned, October 7th, the buck stopped with the Iranian IRGC or the Ayatollah, and he deserved to be killed in his bed or in his house, because in the common parlance, he chopped the heads off babies, cut women in half on October 7th. Really? Is that where we're going here? Okay, fair enough. If that's the logic we're doing, then
let's make a list of your crimes.
Let's make a list of all the things that we can, pin on you on that basis, by that same rationale. But the interesting thing apart from that was from that complete nonsense that he came out with. Well, it's interesting, like I said, that he responded because he felt that he was being accused of something, some crime. And then he said, well, I'll see you're accusing me of bombing desalination plants, and I'll raise you
40 beheaded babies
and women cut in half or something. So there, I win. I win that one, and let's move on.
And there was another one not with Trump, but with another U.S. official. I didn't manage to grab it. Where he's being asked about having bombed schools and hospitals, and his response
is the same
was essentially it was similar in that he said, "Well, we know that they hide military bases and tunnels with equipment underneath hospitals and schools, so we were right and justified to bomb these."
Again, it's a pure Israeli talking point.
Yeah.
The merger is
there's no distance between them.
You couldn't really it's complete.
You couldn't put a piece of paper between them. So yeah, they're the same. But just in that video that you're talking about at the beginning, the guy actually asks him, the question the reporter asks him mentions the desalination. There's a report that the US attacked a desalination plant in Iran, and he said that this could open the door to attacks on. No, he didn't explain exactly what he meant, but he said this could open the door to attacks on other industrial facilities.
Yeah.
Now, whatever the reporter meant by that, what Trump interpreted was, well, there's two options. One is that it opens the door for Iran to attack industrial facilities in Gulf states or something, or it opens the door. Trump has opened the door by attacking the desalination plant to Trump attacking other industrial facilities in Iran. So it wasn't clear from the reporter's question what he was implying by that, but Trump seems to have gone with that Trump, the US attacking the desalination plant opened the door to Iran attacking similar targets of interest for America in the Gulf states, whatever. And he immediately responds by saying, he kind of cuts him off and says, "Oh yeah, well, it also opens the door for us to do more stuff, because, like, you know, if you're going to talk about opening doors, I can open doors. I've opened a lot of doors in my life. You know, I mean, you're trying to tell me the Iranians are going to open doors for attacking us? No. There's not going to be any doors open for attacking us, because we'll open the doors first. I've got all the doors, and I have the keys to all the doors, and I will open them all." He's such a douchebag. Like,
it's like,
that's literally, listen to it again. That's literally what he says. He was triggered. He was triggered by the guy saying that Iran might attack you. And he's like, he just can't handle it. And that, for me, that's a sign of weakness. Like, it's a sign of the whole situation not being good and him not being in a good place or not being happy about the whole thing, where he's so triggered and so sensitive to the suggestion from a reporter just saying that Iran has said that, you know, since the US attacked a desalination plant, and this may open the door to Iran, let's say, attacking similar targets in
or everyone. It's open. It's more openly asked.
But the way Trump interpreted that, that's what he heard.
Yeah.
It opens the door for Iran to attack similar targets. And as soon as Trump hears that, he's like, you know, what do you mean? Attack? That means we might lose, or what are you trying to say? That we're losing in some way? Don't you fucking dare say that. What are you talking about?
I've already announced mission accomplished.
Right, exactly. It's all super sensitive. Like, he's not just that, and there's plenty of others where he talks in a similar way. That, for me, the read on it, I mean, you know, you go and get somebody to one of those behavioral, you know, those people who analyze people's eye movements and behaviors and speech and all that kind of stuff, to see if they're lying or if they're whatever, or
their body language or speech, whatever. Yeah, it's, for me, it's super clear that he's, like, not happy. Yeah, this
it's not going well.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have all the cards.
This exchange between Bahrain, desalination plant in Iran, possibly a retaliation on a similar water plant in Bahrain this morning. And then, of course, the terrible oil fires in and around Tehran. For me, it highlights a question I've had all week, because I think already by Tuesday, Iran was... It's hard to say who's saying, whether an official statement is the whole story, because Iran has, of course, boasted that they've, as a result of its top leadership being killed on day one, they've moved to something called decentralized mosaic defense, where our units out there are separated from a central command, blah, blah, blah. In any event, that's not strictly true, because they have also said that just in the last couple of days, they've managed to get the word out. Their foreign minister was explaining that they can communicate with their units in the field. Anyway, the question I have been wondering about is, because early on, the top Al-Rosa, I forget its name, the top Aramco, Saudi, the largest refinery on earth, I think, in the middle of Saudi Arabia, was hit by something. Now, they denied it at first and said it was just a small fire, but their own workers posted videos of them fleeing the site, and that Chinese company that's been cutely publishing satellite footage all week long, they published and they showed, the nerve center of the whole complex is wrecked. Anyway, Iran's formal statement midweek was, no, it wasn't us. We're not hitting our neighbors' critical energy infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now it gets lost online because people are still rah-rahing whenever there is something like a oil storage or refinery hit in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE. People are like, yeah, go for it, Iran. But surely this exchange of the last 48 hours shows that we're on the cusp of possibly going into that level of it. Therefore, what was that nonsense earlier in the week? It did strike me at the time, hang on a second, why would Iran do that? And they articulated what their intention is when Przeskin spoke explicitly to neighboring countries. We want you guys, you see what's happening. They're not able to defend it. We want you to not let them return, at least not let them use the bases on your soil to attack us. So why would they, 3 days in, be hitting Aramco?
Right.
So but it's a big question mark. And there is past form for that same site in Saudi Arabia being hit, and no one not knowing exactly what went down there. It trailed off. There's a Wikipedia entry on it, and it remains unexplained. Here we go. 2019. I think it involved low-flying choppers over Saudi airspace. Drones as well. Now, there have been on other occasions Houthi strikes targeting Saudi facilities. But this one stood out. September 2019, Iran denies launching drone attacks on Saudi oil facility. If you scroll down there, give you some idea of what happened. Yes, it happened it did happen in the context of a Houthi bombardment, because the Houthis were getting hammered by Saudi Arabia at the time in their civil war / proxy war versus Saudi Arabia. The upshot of it was Saudi Arabia never actually accused Iran. The Western media, like this, insinuated it was Iran that did it. And that was just left hanging there. It never resolved as to what happened there. So that's past form for mystery strikes on Gulf oil sites. And I think with this diplomatic attempt by Iran the last few days, I think you can kind of see the outlines in potential for the interests of Israel or the US or elements within to at least begin partly damaging and destroying oil and gas infrastructure of the region, because a key strategic end goal they would like from this is the isolation, the walling off, the separation forevermore of potential rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia and the other GCC countries. It's similar to Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, you want to get
you want to absolutely end rapprochement for 4 generations to
by
come.
having a big war.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily a big war, but by souring relations through some kind of military aggression between the two states. But that makes total sense that they would do that, and also just prevent those Gulf states from trying to stay neutral or something like that. Look, we want to stay out of this. We've got very sensitive kind of infrastructure here.
It's very exposed.
We don't have a lot of water. We're quite exposed. Our balls are hanging out the window. So
we literally form a line between the two warring parties, Israel and Iran.
We don't want to be involved, so can't we just stay neutral? And then it's like,
but they can't strictly. Because
they can, because there's a danger of course they can't, because their countries are littered with US bases from which the US and Israel are bombing Iran. So your country is being used, but obviously the Iranians aren't going to be too extreme about that, in the sense they realize that that's a long term.
Yeah,
there's a lot of history behind that and all that kind of stuff, and they're not going to pin them to the wall over that. They'll say, okay, look, we're not going to blame you for having US military bases on your soil, but or that they're using those to launch attacks on us. We're not going to attack you in response, but
they'd at least like to try to persuade them to consider the future.
Yeah. No, but I think the agreement will be that look, if you want, what neutral means for these Gulf states is that you stay out of it. We won't attack any of your infrastructure, your critical infrastructure, but you have to not complain, which just sounds reasonable, not complain when we attack the bases that your countries are hosting for American bases that you're hosting, from which they're launching attacks. What are we gonna shoot it back against? What kind of bullshit is this? Like, okay, so here's the war deal, right? I get to, use other countries to attack you, and you're not allowed. Well, you're just not allowed to respond at all. All right. Everybody agree to those rules? Let's go. It's
negotiations with the ballistic missile stuff, where Israel and the U.S. were trying to get Iran to basically neuter themselves militarily,
right?
And that essentially amounts to, we want to be able to knock the shit out of you, and you need to have your hands tied and your feet strapped to the floor.
Yeah. And then that's how we're going to start this fight. So you lie down and I'll tie your hands and feet, and then we'll start the fight, okay?
Because America prefers a turkey shoot.
Because America never liked a fair fight, and Hegseth said that this week. This isn't a fair fight. It was never meant to be a fair fight. And yes, we're kicking them when they're down. It's so honourable. It's so beautifully honourable.
Good man, every single one of these bastards, every single one of these assholes, every time they open their frickin' mouth, they say something that makes them seem
like a bunch of
demon-possessed
bullies,
liars and bullies.
Yeah. And they think
every single time.
But he thinks he's representing America. And when Hegseth speaks, he thinks he's representing and he's speaking in the voice of the true America.
Which would be all well and good and fine, except for the fact that this is all coming on the heels of the Epstein files. This is all coming out after we know that members of the Knesset in Israel, a bunch of them, were involved in sexual child abuse rituals.
Right.
So all of your bullshit grandstanding about how evil Iran is, it's like, we already know that you're a bunch of pedophiles.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do, but you know what they're leveraging against that is the jingoism and wartime patriotism.
Yeah. Well, we're in the war now. Support the boys.
That is always ignited whenever America launches some kind of a military.
But it's falling flat now, and this is why.
Yeah,
it's falling flat now because they've already been exposed for being a bunch of, child abusers,
right? Or for, at least for covering them up,
or for covering up, which basically makes them complicit either way.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same thing,
right.
Which is why all of the Iranians, when they're talking about the U.S., they're calling them
the Epstein regime,
the Epstein regime, the Epstein
that's
coalition,
cool, actually.
And it works when they do it because
it started in the West. yeah. But I don't know. America's. This is what America has done in the past, and it's kind of good. It's quite revealing in a certain sense, because previous wars, like America did shock and awe, and it has always been quite aggressive in terms of its military adventurism, where it's just like somebody said at one point, every now and again, America has to grab some shitty little country and throw them up against the wall to show everybody, remind everybody who's boss. That's American, imperial policy basically, and it's mafia policy basically, right? You have to make an example of someone every now and again in case you're the people that you're abusing effectively, or don't start to push back a little bit. You got to remind them what happens if you try to challenge us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the past, previous governments, going back 20 years or so, have always...
Michael Ledeen.
Yeah.
The Ledeen doctrine.
Yeah, well, he's a neocon Jew type person.
Every 10 years or so, the United States needs to pick up some small, crappy little country and throw it against the wall.
Yeah.
Just to show the world we mean business.
Right, exactly.
The problem is, this is Iran.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I know. It's not a shitty little country.
It's not a crappy little country. I'm interested in some of the footage coming out of Iran. They modernized. They have highways and byways and metro systems. I'm surprised that they have gotten as far as they did, despite intense sanctions.
Yeah.
Well, that was an interesting thing with the sanctions have made them develop in the way that they have. It's a similar thing that happened in Russia, because Russia was sanctioned, so it couldn't get anything from anybody, so it had to develop those things within itself. Iran has had a very similar pressure on itself, which is one of the reasons why I think it's been pushing for self-reliance in so many ways, even perhaps unnecessarily so in some cases, just because if it can rely on itself, then it doesn't matter, who puts pressure on who else, because they can do it themselves. And that's why they've developed all of these military technologies, as well as pharmaceutical and biochemical technologies. Yeah. They have, for instance, they have even more women graduating from university than Israel by wide numbers.
In STEM. Not in gender studies.
You're talking about engineers, doctors, philosophers. I mean, all of them. It's like the idea that people are throwing around, or that the Western media and U.S. congressmen and senators or whatever are pushing forward this trope of Iran as a backwards nation. It's way more progressive in the sense that it actually should be considered than most Western countries. So they have they have the picture of the Iranian women under the Shah, where they have their hair out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now they have the pictures of the women in burqas. But the thing is, the women in burqas now are way better off than they were under the Shah. So it doesn't work. When you hold up that picture, it just shows your ignorance, that you don't know anything. And it reminds me of Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. And Tucker was like, maybe you should learn a thing or two about the country you're trying to blow up before you go and blow it up.
The Islamic Revolution and the Islamic Republic it created actually worked. And that's why it has to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Sorry, you were on a stream. You were talking about Nadine. Where are we going with that?
Don't know. Yeah. In the past, previous governments have covered it up in a certain sense with freedom, democracy, and right to protect, and they're bombing their own people and this kind of stuff. But it's kind of weirdly gratifying to see Trump, because that's his way, and to see real America come to the fore, and not this fake freedom and democracy version of America come to the fore. It's almost like they've decided that, look, just because their personalities, whatever, Trump and the rest of them, that like everybody knows that America is this most awesome, greatest country in the world, greatest military in the world, and why should we hide our light under a bushel anymore? You know what I mean? Like, as we've done in the past, why do we kind of hold back and stuff? Like, we have all this power and influence, and we should use it to dominate the world, and basically do the Hollywood version of America that has been presented to Americans, quietly and not so quietly over the years. Let's go full bore on that. Let's go full Maverick. Which is what Hegseth really embodies that. So at least we get to see now that it's actually not about freedom and democracy. It's about like, you have Lindsey Graham saying stuff, we're going to make a shitload of money out of this, and it's like, okay, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Finally they're being honest. But it's interesting that they're being forced to be honest. I think in a certain sense the mask they've had to rip the mask off in a certain sense, because previously they could do their covert, diplomatic right to protect, like I said, invasions or attacks in different countries, and they'd spend a lot of time massaging the messaging and all that kind of stuff, and presenting a certain face that made America seem like the policeman, the benevolent policeman. Now it's like, we're done with that. We couldn't be bothered, or not that we couldn't be bothered, but like, this is kind of more existential now. We're under threat, we're under direct threat. In the past, they were under threat, but not to the same extent that it seems they are now. Like, they see that, it seems to me that they see the writings on the wall, in terms of American power, American global power. And this is a last gasp effort. It's kind of like, it's do or die. If we do nothing, our our interpretation or analysis of where this goes in 5 or 10 years is not good for America. Like, really not good for America. So we do nothing, we're screwed. We do something, I don't know, it depends on how level-headed the analysis was, we're probably screwed. But at least there's a chance by doing something, we might be able to get something better out of it. But if we do nothing, this is a slow creep. Basically, these evil kind of other countries, peer competitors, or other countries who are attempting to undermine American power in the world.
Sorry, Joe, you can say it. The Chinese.
They're just slowly, and it reaches a certain point where it's all over. Like they're grabbing more and more and more. They're whittling away or at our power and our influence, and there's a certain point where the collapse is.
They're de-dollarizing.
Yeah, all that.
And we're trying to use the dollar to stop them from doing that, and that's accelerating, and we can see that, and we're modeling that out.
Yeah, well,
it looks disastrous.
Yeah,
they're right. There's 38 trillion debt, you know.
There's all the stuff around de-dollarizing as well. It's not just financial. You know what I mean? Financial is the outplaying of the kind of tangible changes within like resources and just America's position in the world.
Influence over where those resources go, what projects they're directed towards.
And China's rise and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Just before you develop that, so you said it before you get that kind of overview of what, it's important to try to understand what the Americans are thinking here, besides just simply it's for Israel, because obviously it is, but it's what really motivates the American side to do it. It's not just blackmail. They're being less cryptic. They're being more honest. Lindsey Graham is useful for that because he just channels John McCain. Mm-hmm. That's what he already thinks and feels. But there are still being, they dart around, and I think it's confusing for your average American trying to keep track of just the last week's explanations for why, you know. Then Trump throws in October 7th on Air Force One, like we saw, and they're like, okay, it's disjointed and it seems incoherent. So here's another one that he gave. It's just a small clip. He's on the phone to Dana Bash of CNN, and I think it needs deciphering, because on the face of it, you're like, okay, well, that's a whole new angle on it. Where does that fit into them being the most evil things that were ever sprung up on this earth? Mm-hmm. This is what he said.
Had Delcy Rodriguez, and he said she's doing a very good job. I said, well, would you be okay with a religious leader in Iran? And he said the answer is yes. It doesn't necessarily have to be a democratic leader in Iran. It just has to be somebody who treats the U.S. and Israel fairly.
Treats the US and Israel fairly. So then you're thinking, imagine you're an average American. Oh, okay, so they've been treating us unfairly. Wait, what do they do to us? And then, you know, Graham brings up the Beirut barracks attacks in 1983. And Americans born today are like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Well, nobody cared back then. That wasn't an issue back then.
So that's not it. But then you think, hang on. Trump, whenever he talks about them treating us unfairly, he's always talking about economics, trade, and so on. But there is no real trade between Iran and the US. So, because of US sanctions of the last 40 years.
Yeah.
They are treating us unfairly. It's China, it's Iran, it's everyone.
That's just a continuation of what Trump has been saying for the past year, more than the past year. That's what his whole tariff thing was. We're being treated very unfairly. And it's weird. It was weird for that to come out of the blue in a certain sense, although he was talking about it to some extent in his first term, but it really came online in this past year after the beginning of his second administration, where he just started talking as a representative of America. He started talking about America as if it was a victim.
Yes.
Yeah, and America has never presented itself as a victim before. But he's basically talking up America as the victim. They're all out to get us. They're all out to get us. They're doing this, you know. And he even said that, you know, you referred to China and Russia plotting against us at one point there in the past few months.
When they were together in Beijing.
Putin and Xi were together. Yeah, it's you know.
Have fun plotting against America, boys.
Plotting against America. So it's like, Is that a reality? Yes, it is a reality, and it's nice to hear at least an American admitting it. You know what I mean? And to what extent then is Trump, being realistic or at least telling the truth about the whole situation? That other administrations, because obviously this didn't happen just now, but maybe it's come to a head in a certain sense, or maybe it's grown, it's increased in pace in the last few years under Trump and then under Biden as well. But you never heard Biden talking about that. You never heard a word like that out of Biden or any of his officials, regardless of whether or not Biden could actually speak properly. None of his officials ever presented America as being under attack in this way. You know what I mean? In the past, the closest you got to that was the whole war and terror business, where America is under attack from radical Islam. Not necessarily at home, although they tried to make that a reality by having the odd FBI terror plot and the odd terror attack happen. But basically, previously it was used as we're not a victim here. We're not being victimized by any great powers in the world, but there is a threat that we have to confront, and it's a threat to America, to the homeland, and it's over there, and not coincidentally resource-rich part of the world, where it's Muslim extremism that's the problem. Are you sure it's Muslim extremism, or is it that maybe you feel like you might not always have access to the resources in that region? Shut up! Stop saying that. No, it's the Muslim terrorism. Maybe it's got to a point where Trump, and again, maybe it's a personality thing, where Trump is just more of a straight talker and doesn't want to bullshit. Well, he's a populist. He's meant to tell the people what's actually going on. That's what populism is about, right? Being more transparent with the people and getting the people to support you, and if in what you want to achieve. And to do that, you have to be honest with them, right? You have to. So maybe he's being honest, and maybe America really is facing a crisis, a potential crisis, and they see it, from these peer competitors who are trying to undermine the American empire, and that's what this is all about. But it's kind of dangerous, because the difference between America obviously has bombed other countries and been quite aggressive in maintaining its empire over the years. But like I said, I don't think it's part of the national mythos or the national kind of consciousness in America. The American culture isn't really it's based on we're the greatest country in the world and we spread our wonderfulness all around the world and everybody's happy. It's never been, like I said, it's never been a case that we're a victim. There's never been the victim mentality. And the dangerous thing about the victim mentality is when that enters into the thinking or into the identity, is that victims, especially when they've got a lot of weapons and power and stuff, is that they become quite aggressive and quite violent and quite bloodthirsty. They strike out in extreme anger.
And let you know so. Right. Operation Epic Fury.
Right, exactly.
What are we furious about?
Yeah, exactly. Why are you furious? Yeah, who did what to you? Show me on this doll where another country hurt you. So it's like. But a good example of what that looks like is Israel, because Israel's national identity is victimhood. Mm-hmm. And that's why Israel has always been quite aggressive and bloodthirsty and violent.
Paranoid.
The paranoia leading, anybody who's in that state of mind is going to lash out and smash your enemy, because you feel like
they're even going to create scenarios where see what they did, but actually they completely created themselves.
Yeah. And it's bizarre because it obviously doesn't end there, because like Israel's victim mentality, which absolutely defines the whole Jewish identity, and I don't think anybody would disagree with the idea that Jewish identity is first and foremost a victim identity, because they never should stop talking about the Holocaust, and that's their whole rationale for everything they do, basically, is so that never again. What do you mean never again? Well, we were victimized very badly 80 years ago, and our whole lives now are spent making sure that that never happens again. And how do you do that? Well, we have to go around identifying the potential aggressors who did it to us in the past. And who's that? Well, it's pretty much everybody who's not a Jew. Especially those Muslims who are all around us, who want to destroy us. It's just the same thing again. It was the Goys it was the European Goys, let's say, back in the Second World War. Now it's the Muslim Goys, who are trying to do another Holocaust on it. It's just a whole fucked up mentality. Those people are trapped, So
that has found common ground with an America that sees the world
Well, America has become a victim.
conspiring against us
America has
through trade
right.
and economic and technological development.
It's very simple. All these things are super simple from a pop psychology point of view, you know. As long as you understand, you have to think about it all, and then you whittle it down, and you realize that it's actually very simple in a certain sense. Like, because Israel isn't a victim. That's the thing. People who identify as victims aren't victims. Doesn't mean that bad things didn't happen to them, but like nobody should. It's not a winning strategy to identify as a victim. You're not gonna win anything. But even worse in this situation is that Israel is not a victim, obviously, because in this current situation, Israel is actually the aggressor from day one. The victims in the situation are the Palestinians, specifically, because they had their land stolen and then they were abused for the last 60, 70 years, right? Kept in open air prisons, more or less, and treated as second-class citizens. But Israel's a victim. So the victim nearly always becomes the abuser. If it's not the case, which is often happens as well, is that they're simply using the victim mentality in order to continue to be able to be the abuser, because their primary kind of their primary personality type, or their primary thing they identify with is being able to abuse other people. So a person who is dyed-in-the-wool abuser and wants to dominate and oppress other people will very often, because it's useful, adopt a victim mentality in order to abuse.
Yeah. And you see it in big and small. It was seen in microcosm in the riots that erupted in Israel when its Supreme Court ruled that the IDF could not sodomize Palestinian prisoners. Yeah. And they went ape shit. Yeah. And then they overturned the decision.
How dare you victimize us in that way by preventing us from sodomizing prisoners? See, we're victims. They don't let us do stuff. You won't let me do what I want to do. I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And there's a particular mentality of people who steal other people's land. They know themselves, maybe at the back of their mind. At least they know that other people think that. I don't know if they know it themselves, because they've narrativized it and rationalized it away because they're victims. But
if I don't steal it, someone else will.
God gave it to me 3,000 years ago.
Yeah. But they are very touchy, like you said earlier on, very paranoid. And the reason they're paranoid is, well, they're paranoid for good reason. Because that's why I tend to think that a person who's paranoid, like in the case of Israel, about attack from outside their borders, well, yeah, you should be paranoid because you stole their land, you know? And everybody else knows you stole their land. And no matter what you say, everybody's going to come back to that point that you stole their land, and the source of this conflict is the fact that you stole their land, that you treated them badly, you know? And that applies to America as well, you know, wherever it's invaded or destroyed countries, whatever. It's like, well, you can't turn around and say we're being attacked now. Well, you're being attacked because you attacked first, basically, right? These are all very simple concepts, you know, that are should be very obvious and, you know, easily discerned by most people. But it's not, because, I don't know, I think a lot of people do see it that way, but there's still a decent percentage of the population out there who seem unable to grasp those simple concepts, you know. So it's all falling apart, yeah. Nobody can give me a good explanation today as to how America is in the right or how Israel is in the right, that I can't, like, within 3 seconds, immediately just logically deconstruct. And of course, they won't agree with it, but anybody listening would go, well, yeah. It's like, I'm a victim. Yeah, but you actually punched that guy first. Him punching you back does not make you a victim.
It's not him attacking
you're the aggressor. Do you understand that? No, shut up. It's like...
No, I did it because he was looking at me like he was going to punch me, and so I hit him first to stop him from punching me.
Yeah, well, that's what they might say, yeah. But then I would go, well, actually, I saw, just before you punched him, I saw you eyeing his wallet. In fact, I saw you try to steal it.
The fact that I stole his wallet after I punched him has no bearing on the fact that I punched him.
It was not the motivation
That
whatsoever.
was not the motivation.
So, yeah, it's hard to... it's weird to have to kind of, like, get into complicated analyses of something that, when you think about it, is actually very, very simple and should be very obvious to everybody. And there shouldn't really be any debate about it. But the problem is that there is this big debate about it. And it's like, why are we having this debate? And the answer to that is because there's an awful lot of stupid people out there who are
stupid or scared.
Stupid, programmed, scared, whatever you want to call
Israel
it.
/ the US scares them.
Huh?
Because I think a lot of people, if you sat down with them and had this conversation, their own sensitivity to where you're going with this is, you know, because I don't like the implication of what you're saying, which is that I need to, at the very least, in my own mind, never mind become an activist, I need to see what you're seeing, and that Israel / the US are everything they've accused all these other countries of being.
They're the evil ones, they're the aggressor, and I don't want to believe that. So
we went through 20 years of the war on terror.
Yeah, it depends.
They have to rethink all that.
Yeah, it depends on what your definition of stupid is. Like when I use the terms, when I say that there's a lot of stupid people out there, it depends what you mean by stupid. But like, I would arguably include in the category stupid or human stupidity is a refusal to accept facts because they conflict with your narrative that is false. You know, it's like, I don't know, I mean, you take extreme examples and say, I don't believe that I can't fly. And I say, or you don't believe that you can't fly. And I say, Neil, you can't fly. Don't jump off that cliff. And then you say, I don't believe you because that conflicts with my narrative. And my narrative is that I can fly. I say, well, okay, go ahead. And then you go, and then you win a Darwin Award, which is almost the definition of stupid, right? So again, it depends on what you mean by stupid. Stupid is, I accept this as kind of just a throwaway term, but it does encompass that inability to see what's right in front of your face. Because of ABC programming, national mythos, you know, from cradle to grave, brought up with your hand in your heart saying the Pledge of Allegiance, whatever, and watching Hollywood movies and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's all that stuff within it, but ultimately it makes you stupid. It makes you act in stupid ways. It makes you, it makes you unable to accept hardcore reality that's staring you in the face. Yeah. So
hardcore realities. The Western media is telling people Iran's about to run out of missiles. There are signs, though, that it's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
The shortage of interceptors.
Yeah.
Iran knew that. Trump hauled in the top execs of the military industrial contractors this week and said it was a great meeting where they all walked out and we're going to start. But that's too late, lads. Rubio himself was on record saying we only make a few a month.
We're going to start what? Oh, the interceptors?
Yeah.
I think it's, what's the number, 600 or 700 a year or something for the Patriot system, and they used up I think, I don't know what number it was. It was crazy. It would take them several years to actually restock what they've used so far already.
What was it? There was another interceptor that they had an order placed for this year, for 2026, and the grand total that they were going to get for this year was 57.
Of a particular type, yeah.
Of a particular type.
Right. Yeah, and Trump...
Which are sent up every night.
Yeah. And
in Qatar alone.
six of them for one missile coming in.
And you somehow have it in your head that it's feasible or possible to somehow we just have to have a talk with the guys and we got to threaten Northrop Grumman and all the rest of them. We just got to threaten them and they'll be able to suddenly produce 5,700.
Yeah, he said he's going to sanction any. I think he said sanction.
Yeah,
any company that doesn't step up and do what the emperor says, which is produce things that can't be produced in sufficient quantities. Do it, but sir, the logistical practicalities of this means that it's not actually possible, given the size of our factory, to actually produce that number of missiles in that period of time. Give me another one. Give me a different. This guy isn't giving the right answers. I mean, it's just it's un-American. That attitude is un-American.
Just the factories, sir. It's not just that the factories themselves can't produce them. We can't get enough of the actual stuff
from China.
To make them from China. The rare earth minerals, we can't get them in a high enough quantity.
Right. Well, there's two things there that reminds me of. One is it's not just defensive missiles, it's not just air defense missiles, it's actually offensive missiles.
Yes.
During the week, Trump, within 3 or 4 days, Trump was talking about we have this unlimited supply of gravity weapons, gravity bombs, basically. Yeah. And by that he means not standoff weapons, and that means that
bombs you drop from a plane.
Right, that means standoff weapons. From high altitude, that's why there's B-2 bombers not beyond the reach of air defense, can't be shot down, because they have basically run out of all their standoff weapons, their cruise missiles, etc. They don't have any more, so they have to resort to their ancient stocks of giant bombs that they fit with some wings, whatever, the J-down bombs or whatever, and then just drop those en masse. And that's why you see this kind of destruction in Iran, because I mean, Hegseth would say that they're precision weapons, whatever, but it's a 2-ton bomb.
Yeah.
So it's precise roughly in the target it hits, but the problem is that it's got a blast radius of maybe like 200 meters or 300 meters. So that's not exactly precise. You know what I mean? If you're just trying to hit that one building, and unfortunately, the civilian buildings all around it happen to be in the way. Now, as we all know, the IRGC, as we've just heard actually from the Israelis, the IRGC has a very strong tendency to place its missile batteries, silos or whatever, in residential buildings, just like Hamas and everybody else we don't like does, right? All the people I don't like,
so there'll be
the children's schools. I don't know if you've actually seen the video, but there's video on Twitter of the children's schools actually opening up like this,
like in Thunderbirds.
Yeah, like in Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
And all the kids are hanging from the window like,
Yeah.
And then the missiles come out, and then it closes back down.
Yeah, I've seen that. And the other thing is China and its intelligence. You notice that all I'm seeing is, and it's got Chinese text and all that kind of stuff, is that China's pumping out
Chinese satellite images.
All these satellite images of US aircraft carriers and bases in the Middle East and all this kind of stuff. And the only thing, despite all of that being put out by Chinese government officials, I suppose, via different channels onto the internet, all I've heard from, in the past few days in particular, from the US is talk about Russia
supplying intelligence.
Not a word about China. And why is that? Well, it's what you just mentioned, rare earth minerals, right? Don't say anything bad about China. Like, basically overlook the fact that actually China seems to be doing most of the intelligence, providing most of the intelligence, satellite targeting, etc., or general intelligence to the Iranians. It's China that's doing that, and Russia is maybe doing some, but we have to basically say nothing about China and just talk about Russia. But even then, when that's brought up with Trump's like, well, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because again, even if it is Russia, you can throw shade at Russia. Basically, you can be mean to Russia, but you can't do anything. You can't do anything about it anyway. So
I heard I also heard him comment. It's on the same Air Force One trip with Witkoff and Hegseth over his shoulder. His response was something. He also added something like, "Well, they would say, like we did in Ukraine." So he still has the wherewithal to know that what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah.
So that's what the media is hanging on that, and they're leaving China out of it, which is curious because China is obviously the one providing the most, at least publicly.
You know how they're doing it?
The ship.
You see it?
Yeah. This is awesome. So
that was so cool.
The Liaoning.
Yeah.
This is brand new. This is like AWACS on the water. Complete with 3 radomes. It was sent to Oman in mid-February. I think to take part in the joint Chinese, Russian, Iranian naval exercise, but it's still there, anchored in the Gulf of Oman.
Hanging out, soaking up all that juicy American intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
the description of what it's capable of is off the charts. Let's see. Yeah, put this up, Scotty. There's a lot of, I know we're all, armchair generals on trying to definitively claim who has what capabilities and who has what left in stock. But the Liao Wang 1 is a Chinese intelligence gathering vessel. Technically, it's in international waters. It's tracking U.S. warship positions, aircraft carrier movements, and air operations in real time. And this is the claim. No one knows this for sure, but it's certainly hanging in the air. That data is being shared with Iran, giving them targeting information for retaliatory strikes. Additionally, people have seen this on X, the satellite imagery. Mizar Vision, which is Shanghai based, has been publicly posting satellite imagery of US military positions. And they began that in mid-February too. That's when, remember, seeing, they were helpful. They didn't just show the US air bases in Jordan, for example, with all the jets lined up. They gave the details, they named each one and gave little labels and everything, but what it was exactly. But it's not unreasonable because Iranian precision is evidence. They've hit, I think, 5 radomes. At least across the GCC countries. There's visual evidence for it, confirmed from satellite imagery published by the Chinese. They've also hit and taken out 4 THAAD systems, the high altitude air defense systems. 4. It's estimated that the US has between 8 and 10 total on Earth in production, and 4 were destroyed this week. So again, that's evidence of precision strikes on Iran's part, for which you would need ISR, including satellite level vision of the Middle East. So it is reasonable to conclude China is helping Iran in real time. Because and the proof is the pudding that how successful that targeting has been, how precise it's been.
Mm-hmm.
And they shouldn't be surprised. There's footage from Israel in the 2 other waves of strikes in 2024, where Iron Dome detects fires and someone's in an apartment building next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4 sirens are wailing, and they're all like, cameras trained up to see what happens next. There's 3 seconds of nothing, and then incoming directly on the battery that just lobbed it. Now, a rational actor surely would have watched that, because Iran was clearly trying to signal, look, are you sure you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really? And then there was a second exchange of missiles. Are you really sure you want to do this? And now the evidence all this week is that they can pinpoint not just the general vicinity of a US base, but specific items on US bases.
Specific key items that affect Iran's ability to hit its targets. That is to say, without all of the radar systems that the US uses to track all of the incoming missiles, it makes it that much more difficult for the US and Israel and everyone else to then take out any oncoming barrages. And you've seen it where at the start of it, anything that was lobbed at Israel, for example, you're getting a 15, 20-minute warning ahead of time before it arrives. Now, I've seen it as little as 1 minute. And there was a video of an Indian guy who had made it out. He claims to have made it out and says that we were getting struck and there were no warnings at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we know from, I think, CNN reporters as well as others that the Israelis are cracking down really hard on any kind of televising what is going on there.
Yeah.
So I can see that very much being the case, that things are striking that they can't stop. And I imagine that the longer it goes on, the worse it'll get.
What about on the other side of the equation? So, because you could leave it there and say, yep, it's all bad, it's all black for the US and Israel. What about on the Iranian side? Because they're still getting hammered, obviously. If it's less and less standoff strikes from US bases on land or the US ships themselves, it's coming from Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Israel yesterday posted we had 80 sorties of jets.
Mm-hmm.
They're flying. They're still taking off from bases in Israel,
or the Middle East, yeah,
or maybe Jordan, and firing standoff somewhere over the desert of Iraq and Syria, and then returning back to base.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they need to, they're refueling.
Mm-hmm.
People are showing where the tankers are above Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Jordan, and they're refueling mid-flight for return home.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if
that doesn't seem to have been a hit substantially.
Well, I would think I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those sorties are actually to even a majority of them are designed to of jets are designed to attempt to shoot down drones.
Okay,
not to fire missiles, which might be in increasingly short supply.
They published some footage of that. I think British and French jets are also in on that act too. Air-to-air combat against incoming Iranian drones.
Yeah.
In the earlier exchanges I mentioned before, in 2024, there was twice in 24, I think. There was footage and evidence of serious damage to like Nevatim Air Base, which is a key Israeli base.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it this week. It's like they haven't yet targeted them, or they can't. They're being well defended this time, maybe.
Well, we noticed a lot of people noticed on the internet noticed that a significant drop off in video footage of missile strikes.
Yeah.
Which could be an example of the effectiveness of the Israelis, at least in terms of clamping down on
information,
people posting information online. You know what I mean? And they use that to say, well, this is Iran, reducing the number of strikes and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't make any sense, because it does seem we've seen the image of Iran having hit various different radar installations that would arguably make it easier for Iran to fire more missiles. You know what I mean? Because there's more chance of them getting through, because there's less kind of over the horizon radar capability, and they rely on the closer stuff, which gives them less time to actually intercept them, which is why Iran targeted those radars in the first place, was to give them a better chance of actually bypassing our defense, because it has such much less time to actually activate, So I think there's obviously some damage being inflicted on Iran and stuff, and they're having to kind of like deal with that kind of situation as well. But I don't think, to a large extent, that they don't seem to be degrading Iran's capability, and I think Iran was playing a kind of waiting game in a certain sense, and maybe that'll come fairly soon, where they were focusing on attacking American military bases in the Middle East, in order to degrade their ability to respond, to get those bases evacuated, to push them back further and further from Iran. They can't fly sorties from there, degrading the radar and intelligence gathering capability. And once they decided that it has been achieved to a sufficient extent, then they might just decide to launch a
Open a can of whoop ass.
barrage. Yeah, but you got to pick your time. You got to make sure that you don't want to do that and have a lot of it. Especially if you're using more advanced missiles and all that kind of stuff.
More expensive ones.
Yeah.
It's like they said, I can't remember who it was, said that, and this was an Iranian saying that that they were, using their old stock first. And I saw another Iranian official clarify to say that everything that they had used up until a couple of days ago, save, some, but the majority of what they had been using in the very beginning was stuff from the 2012 to 2014 production era.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's good for morale, but if it's also true, if it's also true, Pentagon acknowledges 6 U.S. servicemen have become Gold Star members, which means they're dead. You have to clarify because they don't want to mention. They don't even want to mention the word death. 6. Iran says hundreds. What do we think?
Well, this week there was. I mean, you only get a little because that's closely guarded secret, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing has to be closely guarded, especially because it'll trigger Trump no end, and he doesn't want to take questions from reporters. Because just make him more angry, and they respond by saying, "I'm going to bomb Iran even more." It's kind of like almost like a good thing in a certain sense that kind of American casualties, the reality of American casualties in these wars aren't publicized widely, or they keep a wrap on them, keep them under wraps. Because of America's position and their prestige and their reputation, all that kind of stuff. If they were seen publicly, if it was known publicly that they were taking a beating, it would probably provoke them to
lash out
even stronger. But there was a report this week of there's a base or a hospital in Germany that had cancelled. It had basically stopped its labor services, i.e., women giving childbirth services, in order to. They did. They said it in context of receiving wounded from the Middle East, and it is a hospital in Germany that is the main U.S. medical facility outside of the U.S. for war wounded, basically, and they had to shut down basically the
entire ward,
the labor ward in the they said in the expectation or whatever, but it kind of suggests that it was because
it was more than an expectation.
It was happening, right?
There was a job posting or several job postings for American companies for workers who would be going through the personal effects of individuals who did not come back to the United States the way they thought they would.
Which is what Trump said. That's how he said that they've been killed. But see, that's an example as well of just how sensitive the whole thing is. Like, Trump can't actually say, and maybe it's personally, maybe previous presidents of America had been or were more able to actually just be open about it, but Trump seems to be very sensitive because it's all personal to him, right? That he sees that any war dead or whatever would be on his on his account, basically. So he has to cloud it or couch it in these bullshit terms, like, there's some pictures. We're going to receive we're going for a ceremony to welcome back the some of our soldiers who are coming back to America, just not in the way that they expected.
Oh God, that statement was.
Really? You mean they're dead? That was your saying?
That's the most mamby-pamby way of saying it.
So gay. But you know what it is? It's a sense among the people and then the leadership. The reason it's so sensitive and hard to talk about is because they know it's not honorable what they're doing. Compare with Iran. Iran loses every day. A couple hundred more
And
airmen, footmen.
immediately says they're all martyred.
They're all martyred. Awesome. The leaders can then publicly walk out in the street, substantially knowing they have the support of those around them. We're in this together. Same with Putin in Russia. He goes to the funerals of the soldiers, massive crowds, or at least he did for some of the generals. And understands the people understand, and we can just report them. Yeah, they died, you know. But it's when it's dishonorable, it's like you don't even want to acknowledge it. And the lengths they're going to, we've had clues before, but the lengths they're going to cover up deaths is like.
I don't think it's much because it's dishonorable, or they recognize or know that it's dishonorable. They think people think it's dishonorable that, you know, these guys died for nothing, whatever. I think it's just that there always has been America's reputation and status as the greatest country in the world who always wins wars, never loses any, you know, in any significant numbers or whatever. And even then, it was friendly fire or something. It's more about the reputation that, and Trump embodies that more so than any other president because he's very public and open about it, and he's identified with America and I am America. He's basically, you know, the Neo Caligula. You know, he is America, you know. He is America in a way that no other president was America because he's decided that he is America. He is MAGA. He's taking the country back. It's all because of him. He rebuilt the military literally all by himself, by hand, in his first term. He literally rebuilt the military. Like I'm talking about aircraft carriers.
Very big hands.
Yeah, he had really big hands, and there were no aircraft carriers, and he rebuilt them. He built them from scratch. So he's really identified with it, so it's much more personal. So that would drive him to, on top of the usual aversion, the normal aversion that America has to being perceived as losing in any way, shape or form, and especially in any military conflict, but also in any other way, because America only wins, and Trump has repeated that ad nauseum. So he needs to really, more so than any other, muddy the waters on that. And also because like there's some element of him as being a war of choice in a certain sense, you know what I mean? Because he wasn't very clear. It's only after the fact that we're getting the narrative about why this war actually happened.
The ever-changing.
Because it started and it was like, we're having negotiations. Yeah, next week there's going to be more negotiations. Boom, we invaded that country. Okay, after a few days. So can we have the, I know it's a bit late, but can we have the kind of the narrative build-up? If only after the fact, can we have the narrative build up to why we're actually engaged in this war? So that all makes it seem like a war, an unnecessary war of choice that they're now having to scramble. And you hear the favorite phrase or favorite term that they're using these days, the past couple of days and the past few days, is 47 years. We've been fighting Iran for 47 years. You think it's a war? This isn't a war for a start. It's a military operation. Special
they want to use that term, but Russian people
it's a special military operation. But anyway, we've been dealing with Iran for 47 years. This isn't anything new. We all not on that. We all not aware of that. Did you not get the memo? We've been at war
since the hostage crisis.
Yeah, we've been at war with Iran for 47 years. They've been killing us for years. Did you all miss that?
Yeah,
the ongoing 47-year long war. It's in all the history books, right? The 47-year war and counting that America has been fighting with Iran.
Oceania has always been at war with East Eurasia or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. You know, all the people they killed, and the chopping, and the babies, and the
hostages,
and the human shields, and the terrorism, and tried to kill Trump. Another thing.
Oh yeah,
that was my other favorite thing.
There was an active guy who's actually in court for being a patsy and being groomed by the FBI to, hey, low IQ man from Pakistan, you want to kill Trump? It's
so absurd.
I've got a plastic gun that I could give you. Well, I won't tell you it's plastic, but I'll give it to you, and you could write on a napkin how you can plot it out in badly drawn diagrams of how you're going to assassinate Trump. Okay, I'll do that. Boom. FBI boss jumps out from behind the curtains. Gotcha. All right, take him to trial. This guy was plotting to kill the president. He's Pakistani, yeah, but that's close to Iran. And
He was put up to it by Iran.
we have evidence. He said anyway, after severe waterboarding, he said that Iran had paid him to do it. And not only that, but there's suspicion now, because, you know, we got it going, so there's suspicion now that Crooks at Butler, Iranian. Not him, Iranian, paid by the Iranians. Newly unearthed FBI evidence. Look, we just need it all. Bring it all in. JFK, yeah.
It was Iran.
Pretty sure Lee Harvey Oswald had
An Iranian passport.
a sixth cousin twice removed who was Iranian. And yeah, 9/11, Iran did 9/11, didn't they? Everybody knows that. Pretty sure it was 9/11, Iran. Wasn't it Iran had the weapons of mass destruction on 9/11?
Yeah, but we took
Didn't
a
Iran
wrong
use their
turn.
weapons of mass destruction to do 9/11? That was
Yeah.
part of the 47 war, I think. The 47-year war. That was one of the big incidents in this 47-year war. I'm just getting done to know about now, but I'm looking back through the history of it, and I think in the history books, one of the major kind of battles that occurred during the 47-year war, 47-year Amero-Iranian war, was that that almost turned the tide in favor of the Iranians, but luckily, thanks to Tom Cruise and
Donald Rumsfeld
they overcame
and Dick Cheney.
this vicious attack by the Iranians on 9/11. Pretty sure that's what happened. So, yeah,
If people believe those stories about history, then they'll believe anything. Do you think they believe the friendly fire explanation for 3 downed jets in Kuwait?
I tend to think when I saw that, it's like it's either really bad train, maybe some Kuwaiti dude who just passed his driving license or something like that and jumped into a jet and said, "I gonna help," and I'm a helper. Give me the keys.
I'm a
Give me
pilot.
Give me the keys. I always wanted to be a pilot. Pew pew, and or it was somebody. It was either, I don't know if it was American. It could have been Kuwaiti. It could have been a Middle Eastern national. You know, because obviously they probably are they've been training Saudi nationals and Kuwaiti and Bahraini, to fly those jets, because technically it's their defense forces, right? Even though they're run by America, but they certainly have Middle Eastern pilots trained to fly those jets, and maybe one of them was a Shia, quite devout, didn't like what was happening. Said, "Okay, what's my mission? Bomb Iran. Okay, let me at him." Oh, look, there's 3 F-15s. Pew, pew, pew. And they're gone.
The ghost of Kuwait.
The ghost of Kuwait. No, well, I mean, in a real sense. I mean, because
But the friendly fire interdiction on the tech in those vehicles,
but it's not even friendly
makes the
fire.
Kuwaiti jet effectively a US jet.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. No, they're all US
It's hard
jets.
to
Like,
override.
it's just a Kuwaiti pilot. It's got nothing to do with. It's not Kuwait flying that. It's America flying that, but using a Kuwaiti pilot because it's just manpower, and they're more expendable than Americans, right? But in the alleged video of it, and I think it seems to be because it matches with the original videos of seeing the planes falling down. You can see another plane, an F-15 or whatever, which was the one that fired, and admitted that it was a friendly fire incident, but the proximity of the planes,
right?
The guy, he had visuals.
He was with them.
We had visuals on them. I mean, there's no way that anybody competent would have mistaken. What are those 3 Iranian F-15s? How did they get here? Type thing. They just entered our airspace. I mean, it's like
because the F-18s look exactly like a MiG.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks exactly like you can't distinguish.
Yeah, exactly.
Them.
Yeah.
Unless you can see the Russian flag on the helmet of the pilot.
Yeah.
You won't know.
Yeah. So the only explanation for me, given it was, and they've admitted that was shot down by another aircraft or another fighter jet, is that it was done intentionally. And that's, but this is another angle that's that the Americans are obviously very worried about, and part of this whole conflict is this week. So according to the Financial Times, 3 of the 4 major Gulf economies, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar potentially, are actively considering or discussing withdrawing from US and other international investments. They cite the escalating economic toll of the conflict, including reduced income and the need to alleviate fiscal strain. So they're reviewing whether to invoke force majeure clauses to basically cancel their contracts for commitments for current and future commitments abroad, including the investments they have in the West, particularly in America. Major pledges to the US Gulf sovereign wealth funds collectively hold over $2 trillion in US-linked investments. Basically means like American government bonds and treasuries, etc. So that's a lot. I mean, not that they would, withdraw or cancel at all or whatever, but there's $2 trillion worth there.
Taking away
how much is wiped
any
off the stock
portion of
market?
that is going to be huge.
The $3.5 trillion wiped off US stocks value this week.
Well, this could be happening, already, and you won't know about it, except you hear reports about they're considering doing it, and yeah, we did it already, type thing, So, while described as a precautionary measure amid the war's fallout, such moves could also serve as economic leverage on the US administration, potentially sending shockwaves through global markets if realized on a large scale. That's at the bottom. Anyway, so it's leverage. Obviously, they say it would, if they were to do it, it would be economically pretty freaky for the global economy, for the American economy, and therefore the global economy. But they say obviously it could be used as leverage. It could be used as a threat. Look, you need to work something out with those Iranians, or you need to find some. You need to bomb them harder or stop them doing what they're doing. You need to be able to protect us in a certain sense, or stop Iran firing missiles at our countries and threatening our infrastructure, because if you don't, we're going to have to consider withdrawing our investments in the US economy in order to protect ourselves. If you can't protect us, then we have to protect ourselves. But in reality, of course, Gulf states, while America would spin this as
they need a protector. How are they going to protect themselves?
Well, that's the thing. But in America would spin this as America protecting. They don't need anybody to protect them. They don't need America to protect them. They could turn around and make and just be what they should be, which is friends with all their Middle Eastern neighbors.
Iran.
So in reality, what's actually happening is that it's the US government is using Gulf states as a buffer, essentially, as a shield. It's Gulf states that are protecting America, not America that's protecting Gulf states.
I think it's dawning on them.
We're basically a shield, We're acting as a shield for America. It's like America's holding us in front of it while it's taking incoming fire from Iran.
And while
I'm protecting you.
While the soldiers are bussed, back to hotels, away from the front lines, away from the bases.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just their economies, and they have the most skin in the game here. You know what I mean?
Oh, big time. Air travel, energy, aluminum. Isn't there something crazy like Qatar produces 50% of aluminum or something? Or is that LNG? It's one of the world's major smelters of aluminum. But I think that the main thing with Qatar is the LNG issue. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that force majeure has extended to LNG tankers that were en route from the Middle East to Europe, turning around and heading for Asia, which is the more needy market? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've always known this. So this could snowball or go non-linear in so many ways.
Qatar on aluminum. Qatar is a major smelter. With Norway, it's a 50-50 joint venture.
Okay.
With Norway, and Qatar Energy. It's like you say Qatar, but it's actually Qatar Energy, i.e., the state-owned energy giant. Like basically, the thing they accused Russia of, or was it not Lindsey Graham, John McCain said Russia is just a big gas station masquerading as a country. Yeah. It absolutely applies to those Gulf states,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Dubai is the
it's the only
OnlyFans capital of the world.
Right, exactly.
Congratulations.
CIA and OnlyFans. That's what they cater to
And
finance it.
those
with
countries are
oil.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they're going to have to start applying pressure in reverse on the US, because they're like 90% dependent for food on imports through shipping only. They have no land bridges for that. And the shipping stopped or gone way down.
Yeah.
Talk about being out on a limb. It really is it's like you said about those countries. Like they're like this mirage on the desert. Yes, they became real and concrete, and they thought that's how it'll always be now. No longer are we just a mirage that you see in the shimmering heat of the desert, but they're dependent 100% on desalination plants, almost 100% on shipping through that gap with Iran. They don't make food.
No, they have no history of. They have no actual. There's just a bunch of nomadic Arabs on camels. They were that 50, 60 years ago. Like there was nothing there, and it was just a bunch. They're just a bunch of tribes, Arab tribes, and then they turned themselves into this. But it's also it's one of the most corrupt places in the world. It's the center, one of the centers in the world for money laundering, basically, and it's also a holiday camp.
Yeah,
it's to a large extent a holiday camp, especially a place like Dubai. But obviously it's all financed by oil and gas, there's no other history, there's no cultural history, there's nothing. I mean, 90% of the population of those countries is expats from all over the world, and they don't bring their culture with them, whatever. It's a faceless, cultureless, shiny new, financial services and other services city financed by oil and gas, and it's like a holiday camp or a playground. They're not countries really.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And they never were, and they should never have had any kind of aim to be like. I mean, they don't have a history. Like literally, like you look at maps 50 or 60 years ago, it was a desert. So it's like if you pick a piece of desert and then put up a village, let's say, or a city or whatever,
a theme park.
Yeah, a theme park. And say, everybody come here, and, there's jobs, and you can, service industry jobs, and it's all state financed essentially through oil and gas subsidies from oil and gas production. And yeah, they'll be gone. And Israel's not much different, There's a lot of evidence of looking at flight radar and stuff and seeing planes flying, if there are any flying in the Middle East, very few. There's a few. If you go in one way per day kind of thing out of Dubai, and they're going to Europe, basically, so that's expats finally getting the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And then Israel is just pretty much dead, like, except maybe one or two a day going to, most of them going to Cyprus, actually. Israel, there's no El Al flights or any international flights, well, longer haul flights. There's a company called Israel, ISRAIR, whatever. It's some other Israeli air company or whatever. And they're just flying once or twice a day, Israelis, getting the flock out of there. Because again, there's no sense of we're going to stay here and defend. There's no real attachment to the land. Like the only thing that makes a nation, that really makes a nation and gives a national identity and a culture, if you want to call it that, is longevity, the length of time and generational longevity on the actual land. A sense of identity with the place, the rocks, the grass, the trees, the mountains, the place. That's what actually makes a nation, because from that comes a kind of culture and all that kind of stuff, and it takes quite a long time to develop that. So the only way you can have a real kind of cultural identity that is something that would make people, truly patriotic and want to defend their country is a sufficient length of time for that kind of a culture to develop, and it's rooted in the land and identification with the land, even epigenetically.
Yeah.
Through multiple generations, your parents and grandparents and great grandparents going back, thousands of years on many occasions. Israel doesn't have that. So as soon as
they have kibbutzim
they fought from the last 50 or 60 years.
Yeah.
So it's the same as the Gulf states. They're basically the same. It's a piece of desert that they took. I mean, at least the Arabs were there, so they had a certain right to kind of like, own that bit of desert that nobody else wanted. But in the case of Israel, Palestinians, it's their land, it's their home. Can you imagine the Palestinians after Gaza, the people in Gaza, and even in West Bank, but particularly in Gaza, after what the Israelis have done to it over the past few years? You would imagine that a lot of, and the way they've left it now, you'd imagine that a lot of those people would go like, we're out of here, and they were offered it. Like if there were a consensus among the people of Gaza, Palestinians in Gaza, to leave, they would have left. It would have been facilitated for them. Nothing would have made the Israelis happier to send them off to some other country. But despite what the brutality with which the Israelis have treated them and destroyed almost 50% of the buildings in Gaza or something, they're not going anywhere, and they won't go anywhere because they have an identification with the land. The Israelis, first few bombs hit, out of here, and I'm not coming back. I don't give a shit, because they know in their heart of hearts that, forget what people say, look at what they do. Then you can tell what they actually think, what is actually meaningful to them. The Israelis are like, loads of them are, and it'll probably get worse as time goes on. More and more of them will just up and leave, because they don't really have any sense of real identity or attachment to that land. It's all just based on, this book says that I lived here 2,000 years ago or something like that. And it's like, you don't need a book, for people in other countries, like in France or in European countries where they've lived for many, many generations and have a long history going back, there's no book that those people have to read. Like in Ireland, there's no book that the average Irish person has to open up every day to remind themselves that this is their land.
Book of Kells.
But they don't. It's in a museum. That's for tourists to look at. They don't have to consult a book every day just to confirm to themselves, because they're not sure. Should I even be here?
Yeah.
And there's nobody questioning it either.
So,
yeah,
Trump has really screwed the pooch.
It has, and it's an ongoing situation, and we have to wait and see. It's just day by day. It's like every day you get up and see what the latest developments are, and it's annoying because you don't have, there's increasing clampdown on information and all that kind of stuff, and it's hard to get accurate information on what's actually going on, because you want accurate information. You don't want to be watching AI slop and drawing conclusions based on AI slop, or propaganda from either side. But it's easy to dismiss American propaganda because it's so crass and in your face and obviously bullshit, but you can rely more on official Iranian government sources. You can rely more on what they say, because they don't have as much to gain from,
misrepresenting.
Yeah, from making up stories about their missiles and stuff, because but America,
their neighbors can tell what was just hit.
Yeah. But America has a lot to lose from not doing that, because basically it posits that if you're on the losing side, you have to catapult your propaganda much further and much more aggressively. If you're on the winning side, you don't need to. You just let the facts speak for themselves and actual evidence speak for itself. But that's why the problem for America is that they start off with this grandiose vision and grandiose statements about how this is going to go, and then they have to provide the evidence that that's what's actually happening. We're going to win so bigly. It's going to be massive. It's going to be great. They're going to be gone in a few days. They're just going to collapse in front of us. And Trump has to keep saying that. And then when challenged on it, but what about all the missiles? Shut up. We're going to bomb the shit out of it. He just has to repeat
unconditional surrender,
spurious allegations, because he started out with a very grandiose premise. But then that's how an American do.
One thing that we have to watch for is what will Turkey do? For a brief 48 hours there, the plan Plan C 2.0 was apparently to arm the Kurds.
Mm.
Can you imagine how that went down in Istanbul? And that was quickly killed. 48 hours later, Trump's like, no, we're friendly with the Kurds, but the war is complicated enough. No, they don't need to get involved.
The Kurds themselves have said no fucking way. Like,
No.
Because like we know what's happened before. Like we have a long history of you trying to use us in your geopolitical wars and then dropping us like a hot potato afterwards. So nah, we're not doing anything until we're insured.
Yeah. And the Iranians themselves went out and preemptively struck some of the headquarters of some of the Kurdish militia groups as a warning.
They did. They did it quite circumspectly. They didn't attack the official Kurdish body that has autonomous authority in northern Iraq. What they did hit were Iranian Kurds living in Iraq just over the border, part of potential breakaway faction trying to stir up shit in their own country. So they hit those units and tried to keep things sweet with official Kurdish Iraqis, you know.
And again, basically their messaging was, let this serve as a warning. We understand you guys. Yeah, we don't want no problems. But if you start problems, this is just a warning of what we can and we will do.
Mm.
Then their leader said, no chance, we're not doing that. And then Trump said, no, we thought otherwise. The war is complicated enough. The Kurds like us, We're Americans are none the wiser. What it is the Kurds have been thrown under the bus 10 times too many, and that it's not working anymore. That's a good sign, I think. That's a good sign that the tide is turning for the Middle East as a perennially splintered, gullible, susceptible to Western divide and conquer.
Have to learn the hard way. Yeah, there's some reports during the week of claims on the Twitter sphere or internet spheres about mobilization of large number of US troops, whatever, or cancellation of exercises or cancellation of training. To people are talking about they're gonna, people are saying all sorts of shit like boots on the ground and all that kind of stuff, But actually, I don't think anything came of it. There's nothing. There's so many things that just pop up and everybody gets excited about it and then it just goes away again, Anyway.
And what would they do? Drop them into Iran?
That's not going to happen.
They're not that crazy. Not stupid. I think they might drop them into Iraq as part of reinforcing the shield. But Iran proper? Oof.
Well, how likely is Trump to
quagmire.
To go for a twofer and open something up in Cuba. Send them all into Cuba at the same time.
Well, so you don't expect that they're going to try and helicopter in Delta Force 96
or to Cuba
to try and secure Iran's uranium.
Oh, I saw that. They might take that, but that's not realistic. They don't know where it is, but they might try to take Karg Island. It's a tiny island in the Persian Gulf, towards the north of the Gulf, towards Kuwait. Apparently, it's the major oil terminal for Iran's shipments of oil. 90% of it comes through there. So that would be a strategic value. If not to capture, then if Trump is going to get the oil, that would be something to do. That sounds more plausible. Or if they would want to wreck it so they can never reap the benefits of it, then they could bomb it. They did before in the Iran-Iraq war. It was destroyed, the Karg Island, and they've only really just finished bringing it back to the levels of shipments that it was used to in the 80s now.
There's something. It's possible that you have a small expeditionary force, whatever, like you said, on the Karg Island in the south. Is that not the terminal they blew up though? Didn't they attack that oil.
Kesh or
the-
Kish. That's something else. That's closer towards the actual strait.
Okay, Karg
is to
different,
the
no?
north,
Yeah,
near Bushehr.
right. So it has there's an oil terminal on that and an airport. And I assume what the suggestion is that that's where its uranium is stored.
No, that's a separate. It was like the Washington Post going, our sources say in the White House they're considering an expeditionary force either to hunt for the WMDs, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, or separately to take this key terminal that's important for Iranian exports of oil to China and other places who still accept it's sanctioned oil. But I'd be surprised.
What you just?
I read that, and they certainly repeated that same statistic that 90% of Iran's own shipments to the Straits of Hormuz of oil is just from this single terminal alone. That seems a bit crazy to put all your eggs in one basket, but maybe they haven't had the means to develop other ports yet.
Well, like you drop an expeditionary force like that of a couple of dozen people or something, or even a couple of hundred onto that island, and what's to stop them just getting droned?
I know.
Back to America.
I know. Again, if they did it, it would be something that they didn't really think through, it seems.
The Iranian command has come out to say that Iran will attack oil facilities in the Middle East if the U.S. and Israel continues to attack Iranian energy facilities.
You see, I think that's what some dark horse wants. Now that they're threatening it, but if they actually start that, it would only blacken the potential for what Iran ultimately seeks, which is the dominant influence of the region, for which you need neighbors who are
intact,
not afraid of you, but actually intact and also
friendly,
well
adjacent.
disposed towards you.
Yeah,
if you bomb them into it, no, it's not going to work.
I don't imagine it would be indiscriminate. I imagine they've been cautious enough as it's been, as things have developed, they've been cautious in their moves. So I don't imagine it would be, an all out thing, because it hasn't been all out thus far, but tit for tat.
Yeah. There's several pipelines, but one in particular was hit that runs from the Caspian Sea through Azerbaijan, through Turkey, and that supplies Israel
and Turkey. Yeah,
that was hit with something. It's still operational. Was that Iran? That would make more sense if they're being discriminate, because Israel is, I don't know what percentage is dependent on it, but it's known that Turkey gets a lot of shit in the region for allowing that to be still the case, supplying Israel during the whole duration of the Gaza genocide.
Money talks. Check this out.
If Azerbaijan is pulled into this and that airbase gets in trouble, have you noticed that the only possible current ways for Europeans to reach East Asia by air travel is through Georgia and Azerbaijan? If that's closed, they have to go into the Indian Ocean and back up, or like over Canada and around.
No, go down over Egypt and over the Indian Ocean down there.
Yeah, because you got to skirt around.
Huh?
You have to skirt around to the south. It's a really long journey doing it that way.
Down,
because they already can't do Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, but down Egypt and just around the bottom of basically Yemen, and if you want to avoid Yemen, but Oman, and then straight across, and you go back up then, You never go down too far, and then you just go back up. You're just coming down around the Middle East,
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have to go way south, like. You don't have to go around the Horn of Africa, or not the Horn of Africa.
No, not that far
south.
But enough that it greatly increases the distance.
What's already happening?
The cost, the fuel.
Yeah. The further south you go, the longer it is, yeah. Check this out. World War III bunker manufacturer, I'm inundated with calls. Is in the Telegraph. As war rages in Iran, Ron Hubbard, not L. Ron Hubbard, Ron Hubbard, is fielding inquiries from politicians and billionaires, including 2 members of Trump's cabinet. If you just go to the first couple of paragraphs there. The 60-year-old Texan builds bunkers designed to help customers survive drone attacks, ballistic missiles, or nuclear Armageddon. With the US war with Iran sparking fears of World War III, businesses have never been better. I've been inundated with calls, said Hubbard. Inquiries have gone up tenfold. Since the war broke out on Saturday, Hubbard claims 2 senior cabinet members in the Trump administration are among his clients. Next paragraph says, one of them texted me yesterday asking me, when will my bunker be ready?
Oh my God.
They're already,
so who was that?
They're already living on US bases.
Two members of Trump's cabinet. So which two?
Oh.
Which two said, when will my bunker be ready?
Well, it can't be War Boy PDP.
Definitely.
No.
It's definitely him. It's absolutely him.
But he's so courageous and
exactly. Well, there you go. He's muscles. The first one that you'd suspect. The guy who talks the most.
Yeah.
But
he's trying to bring Jesus back.
What a chat he is.
You can't bring Jesus back from a bunker.
Sure he can. Him and Jesus will be in the bunker. He'll invite Jesus into his bunker.
So the one with the Crusader cross tattoos on his chest.
He's the chicken hawk, yeah.
He's the chicken hawk.
Of course.
Who else?
The other one is Lindsey Graham. No, he's not a member of the cabinet.
He's an honorary member now. Yeah. But you know those lads are all already living on US bases.
Well.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Rubio, Hegseth.
Because of security.
Yeah.
Because of Iranian assassins.
Since they began last year.
Bunch of queers.
It was never disclosed what exactly they were afraid of, and all the people who
wasn't it only temporarily though.
The MAGA hats
always there, right?
Started to think, oh, it's the deep state that's after them, and they need protection from our good guys in the military, because they was never articulated what it was that they
trust the plan.
Trust the plan, yeah.
Someone in the chat says Epstein clients, suggesting that the two people were potentially clients.
Indeed.
Could be.
I mean, yeah, those people tend to like tunnels and shit. Here's where I got that 50% figure I mentioned earlier. I confused. It was nothing to do with LNG or aluminum, but potential knock-on effects from the Strait of Hormuz being closed for too long. So copper, nickel, lithium mines anywhere in the world require sulfur for leaching and refining operations. And the Persian Gulf accounts for 50% of the specific sulfur compound. 50% of the world's supply for that.
Who does? Who accounts for 50% of the world's supply?
The Persian Gulf.
Oh, in
so it must be a byproduct of extracting and refining oil and gas, the sulfur. Anyway, there's just, yeah, you almost don't want to think about the knock-on effects are.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Loops. Is this related? Officially, no. This is a separate incident. But off Libya, a fully loaded Russian LNG tanker was droned by a sea drone and sank yesterday. It was en route from Russia, loaded with Arctic gas for Egypt. Suspicion is the Yukis.
Well, yeah.
The Yukis operating from Libya, though?
Yeah,
Libya is probably just
dropped off from a ship. You know?
That's pure piracy.
Any news on the bomb that went off in Norway? Or is that still a mystery?
That's all I heard. It's still a mystery. It was at the U.S. Embassy, right?
Yeah.
Explosion. May have been deliberate attack. Possible terror motive in U.S. Embassy blast, say Norway police. May have been deliberate attack. Yeah.
It's them Iranians, you see.
1 a.m. Loud bang. It's natural to blah blah. Maybe an alert attack linked to the crisis in the Middle East. No, would not comment on anything related to that type of damage. What it is that has exploded in similar details beyond the fact that there was been an explosion. Blah blah blah. That's it.
Someone's waiting to get their story straight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
May have been a terrorist attack. May have been a terrorist. Trying to get that kind of thing. Obviously, would be like to try and get Europeans involved. Or get them involved, but get them on more on board. Stop being
against Iran.
Stop being claim it was Iranian. Not being such cheese-eating surrender monkeys, and to at least double down on the anti-Iran propaganda.
You're with us or you're against us.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
But I think
Flashback to 03.
There's some reports that claims that Trump. I mean, there's also it kind of makes sense in the sense of none of it's personal type thing, but that Trump and Russia have been talking about doing a deal on reopening Nord Stream 2, where Nord Stream 2 would more or less be under the political control of America.
Whatever that means. I mean, the tap begins in Russia.
Well, it would be assurance, it would be in contracts, and it would be the US would be involved in some way or other, legally involved or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Assuaging the fears of Europeans that they, that
Russia has them in thrall.
Russia would use this as a leverage against them and stuff. That they'll be calm because they know America's involved now, and then America benefits from the European economy getting Russian gas because, I mean, there's a downside to everything. Like, I mean, the European economy is a big market for American goods, especially when Trump's going to make America great again and bring back manufacturing. 500 million people in Europe is a big market for all of those goods, a natural market for those goods. So it doesn't help Trump's Don Roe doctrine in that respect to have Europe economically impoverished. So you need a thriving economy, and the best way, the easiest way to do that is to give them relatively cheap Russian gas. Of course, America would take a hit on its LNG supplies to Europe if some of those were replaced by Russian gas, but there would be that wouldn't be, that hit would be less than the benefit they would get from having a thriving European market in order to sell some of their new awesome American goods.
That makes sense.
Goods, and at the same time take Russian gas away from gas and oil, even, but particularly gas away from China.
That makes sense because the White House has been issuing exemptions to the anti-Russian sanctions like candy all week long because they understand, oh shit, well, if Qatar is offline.
Yeah, they need Russian gas and oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all very cynical in a certain sense, and you can't take it all too personally and think that it's all everybody's. These, it's going head to head, and it's do or die, and it's like zero-sum game, winner takes all. They realize that they need to do deals, and they need to face the reality of how the world actually works, But they're trying to tweak it in a way that will benefit them, basically. So it's all pointless, really, to be honest. It's all just stupid and foolish when it comes down to it. Despite all the complexities of it, it's just... You all finished playing yet? You all finished messing around and acting like douchebags? Because your dinner's ready.
And you're about to find out.
You all stop messing around. So yeah, that's what's going on so far. That's all the news that's fit to print.
Join us next week as the fires spread to Europe and beyond them. We'll see. It's Turkey. Maybe. Anything else? Oh, wait. You got a joke first? He's thinking about it. Should I say that one or this one?
Which one's the more antiseptic?
Which is the worst one?
Which is the one Neil definitely won't get?
Yeah, that's all of them.
Neil doesn't speak joke.
Not a funny bone in his body.
What do you call a steak that has been knighted by the Queen? Sirloin.
Not bad. Not bad.
Sirloin a lot.
Sirloin a lot.
I like that one. It's easy to understand.
There you go.
Oh, we got one from the chat. Teacher asks, what would you do if you were attacked by a man-eating tiger? And the student says, nothing. I'm a girl.
Amazing. Who's that? Lone
Looks
Star what?
Lev.
Lone Star Lev. I thought it said Lone Star Jew. I'm like, jeez, hope not.
Oh, no.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad.
That's not bad, Lev. We know you're not English isn't your first language, so we'll let you away with that one. We'll give you extra credit, extra points.
We'll give you 1 star of David.
1 star, David. All right, folks. We'll leave it there for this week. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next week with another show and whatever's been going on between now and then. And you know what'll have been going on between now and then. Maybe there'll be some surprises, or maybe not. But just keep an eye out and watch out for. Watch out for air defense missiles. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Can't stop the signal now.